Starbucks figured out a way to engage with their consumers, and it's not by accident, it's really intentional. So a couple of days ago, they disclosed their quarterly results. They exceeded expectations for same-store sales. They exceeded expectations for EPS returns. They met their revenue goals. They're doing good. They're doing good. It was not the case in 2008 when Schultz came back to transform and turn around the organization. Sales were slumping. Majority of their growth was coming from new stores opening, and all the existing stores' performance was tanking. Barista didn't know how to make consistent coffee. There was no interaction. The little moments that matter weren't that well designed. And when Schultz came, he started working on changing a lot of things in the stores, from how people engage with barista, how tall is the coffee machine, how the whole experience from a moment when people wake up until they decide to get in a car and then come to the store and then place the order and then interact with barista and say hello to each other until they leave, consume the product, and then they leave the store, and they remember, they build a recollection of what that experience looked like, all for the purposes of creating that loyalty and for them to come back again and again and again. The other thing about Starbucks that's interesting is they have several principles that that guides their decision making. One is they don't look at just financial outcomes or company performance as the primary goal. They look at the whole value chain. They look at the entire value creation process, and they try to maximize the value, to create the most value, and then carve out a piece of it for their profits. They look at how the growers, bean growers, are sustained and making sure sustainable growing practices are applied. They look at the environment impact. They look at their partners and everybody in the ecosystem that they operate and partner with, that they get the value they expect as well. They support their employees, their college education. They offer benefits to part-time. So a lot of practices that traditionally are not, majority of the companies not embracing, or they've started looking into only lately. They've been really pioneers. So Starbucks is one of those organizations that use the superpower of customer centricity, human-centered design to transform how their consumers, their employees, their ecosystem partners experience them. And I think the same type of thinking is starting to now come into the world of HR. But let's take it one by one. We'll go through a few constructs and concepts, and then we will have an exercise where we will get to practice some of the things we study and examine. Sounds good? All right, simple question. What are companies for? What do they exist for? Who works for a company? Okay, good. What are they here for? And this is going to be an interaction, so you may as well get comfortable. To make money, there you go. What else? Provide a service, goods, offerings, whatever it is the outcome that they create. Yep. Create value, bingo. What is the value definition? How do you define value? The value is the capacity of a good or a service or offering to satisfy a need, right? To provide the benefit to the recipient. And the value, in order for it to exist, it has to have a recipient who perceives it as such, right? So company exists to create value and also to orchestrate the relationship and interests of their stakeholders. Right? What is a stakeholder? It's a group of individuals or an individual who is affected or can affect the organization. Can you name a few? Shareholders.
I'll just be that guy.
You'll be that guy. You have the financial view and the lens. Yes. Customers. Absolutely. Employees. Bingo. Yes. Supply chain and your partners that you collaborate to create value together. The community in which you operate. Is environment a stakeholder? So stakeholders have stakes, right? This is what they perceive or expect as value to come from organization. Let's go through each of the stakeholders that you listed and think what are some of the values that are being exchanged in the relationships. So let's start with shareholders. Return on investment, dividends, revenue. Some of them may feel pride for investing in a company that is successful. A lot of them may get long-term financial security just because the dividends are sustainable and they provide reliable financial returns. Take another stakeholder. Come on. Employees, yes. Job, stability, yep. Wages, benefits. What else?
Personal satisfaction.
Sense of fulfillment. Another stakeholder. Exactly. Exactly. And it's bringing jobs to the local community, it's paying taxes that then creates more opportunities for underserved or underprivileged groups, supporting charity contributions to uplift those who cannot. There's a big significant impact. Who did we miss? Environment, yes. Front and center at the moment, yes, yes. So if you think about values, there are two types, major categories. One is tangible, one is intangible. And if all of this is very simple, we'll go through this quickly, but this kind of sets the framework for what's to discuss. The tangible are money, concrete. You can park it in your garage, you can buy the house with it, you can put it in your bank, you can pay your kids' college with. What about the intangibles? Well-being, self-actualization, sense of purpose. And the interesting thing is, for all the tangible values, we have accounting system, we have financial system, we have a lot of the ways of measuring, setting goals, tracking, putting management systems around it. For the intangibles, not so much. And the biggest flawed assumptions that we as humans have is that the amount of value exists, it's a finite pool, or it's a finite pie, and therefore it needs to be divided, and there will always be winners and losers. And since I am in the business of reframing, I want to reframe that stereotype of frame of mind. And I welcome you to come with me on a journey. So let's think about the macro view. Let's take a step back from companies. Let's look at how the environment in which these companies operate and what's happening around us, right? There is significant volatility, both economic, political, environmental. We have a lot of movement between jobs, between countries, between rural and urban areas. We have 5 generations working side by side now in the organization, each with different needs, different comfort level, different expectations, different life stages they participate in. We have digital technology that is completely disrupting how we interact with each other, how we do work, what does work even mean, and we have deluge of devices and sensors and information that gets created as a result of our participation in this digital economy, all creating on massive amounts of data. And the fact that the processing capacity is now abundant, you can make use of that data to see patterns, make decisions, understand what's happening around us, sometimes without human involvement. And all of you in analytics world are part of that revolution as well. We help companies make decisions and take advantage and extract the value from the data. There are a lot of industries that no longer look like industries. Can somebody tell me what industry Amazon is in? Are they tech? Are they electronics? Are they content creation, video industry, entertainment?
They don't sell books online, right?
Yeah, that's the company. That's the one. They are a perfect example of how technology-first companies are moving into adjacent spaces and figuring out how to disrupt the value creation of the incumbents. So that's at the macro view. At the individual level, a lot of the participation in the social media is bringing the human to the forefront, is putting the focus on the individual, and it's creating a new generation of individualistic individuals. It also allows you to connect to anyone, and when you try to connect to everyone, you really can't connect meaningfully at the human level with many. And many times that results in sense of isolation, in loneliness, and disconnectedness. It impacts the well-being of individuals. Our human capacity to absorb all of this complexity has not adapted as fast as the environment around us. So that brings a whole new set of challenges and complexity to the world in which we operate. And if you think about the organizations, the way they can cope with all of this complexity, because every organization is a collection of individuals. So what we talk about individuals seeps into also the decision-making process for what we describe as entity or enterprise. The way that we can cope is try to reduce uncertainty, because that will give us a sense of control over what's happening around us. And how that complexity exhibits around us. It becomes part of the context. Context dimensions are vision, right? The strategy is to create new space or create a new product or increase revenue, and then everybody creates a vision, and then there is usually a leader that is put aside to manage that, and then they create their own organizational structures. And then they create a decision-making process by which certain ideas get pushed through or not. And depending on the culture, there may be multiple layers. Then processes and systems are put in place to enable the execution of that vision. Activities and roles and responsibilities are getting created. Everybody has a job description now. Performance goals are being set, KPIs. Reward system that amplify or reward or punish those for behavior or misbehaving. And the ways of working get codified. Sounds familiar? All of this, while it may give you a sense of control and reduced uncertainty, at the same time it creates complicatedness, not complexity. It's more complicatedness. And the complicatedness destroys value because it takes time, it takes financial resources, it takes emotional resources to perform a specific duty. And nowadays, that results in significant negative impact on the well-being of individuals. Who has a friend who has mental issues due to stress at work? Who has a friend who quit because the work was too overwhelming? Who has trouble sometimes sleeping just because of the overwhelmment of what's going to come in tomorrow? It's okay. All of this 24/7 and all of this complicatedness is creating issues not only at the individual level, at the company level, at the industry level, at the society level. And it impacts everyone because all this stress, we bring it home, we bring it to our family, to our relationships, to our long-term security and fulfillment. So, what companies can start considering, and we'll unpack some of the solutions in a few minutes. Companies have to rethink how they distribute the decision-making power and enable the individuals to perform. But let's think about what is performance at the end of the day. What is performance?
A measure of your ability to complete tasks.
Yeah, it's what you do day in and day out. It's simple. It's your behavior, right? And behaviors are not the ones that are described in the employee guidebook or what the leader goes on the podium to espouse. These are the behaviors that are day in and day out exhibited and observable, and those that are most reasonable and rational given the context in which you operate. Simple as that. Let me give an example. If you're going to be rewarded for increasing revenue, guess what's your focus going to be? That's the only thing that it's going to matter. And a lot of the decisions they're going to make will be in the frame of that goal or outcome. If you're encouraged to create an ecosystem and create the most value using all the resources that you have at your disposal, so you'll be making very different decisions. So in order to change behavior, you really need to look at what is it that motivates somebody to come and bring their talent to your organization. What is it that they are asked to do? Are they enabled with everything they need to be able to do it? And then what gets in the way of them performing? Relatively simple and straightforward. So if you want a human being to change and be able to be more agile and faster, make decisions and collaborate and interact with others, you really need to make the adjustment to the context in which they operate. All of those things that we talked about, structures, rewards, KPIs, performance management, leaders, vision, make small adjustment in a way that makes the desirable behavior logical. Like it's natural. Are you with me? Make sense? Okay. So how some companies can create value nowadays? They can look at the end-to-end value creation and create a system that is continuously producing new and innovative value for its customers and stakeholders. Have a process that is sustainable to bring more and more innovative solutions and products to the market. They can invest in research and development. R&D is also one of those intangible. Look at the customer and what is the customer needs nowadays and how those are changing and how those can inform how you adapt. Use a lot of the technology that is available to transform your current markets or products or create new markets for that matter. Look at the value chain and completely reconfigure it. Disintermediate, do what Amazon did. Or build that ecosystem like Apple did, or like Starbucks is doing. The interesting part of all of this is at the forefront, at the center of all of this is a human, an employee, a worker, a supplier, whoever it is part of the value creation for the organization. Human. Let's describe the context with another word. It's the workplace, right? People come and get the work done. And human-centered design could be an exceptional superpower for organizations to use to transform what that workplace experience for workers. And the word workers is intentionally chosen as opposed to employees, because employees assume a certain employment relationship as opposed to workforce. It's much broader, and it gives you a lot more flexibility to tap into different relationships and partnerships you can create. So the workplace experience is the cumulative impact of experiences an individual has with an organization before, during, and after the employment journey. They're designed primarily to maximize the value each of the parties gets out of this relationship. So let's unpack this a little bit. Experiences are not the traditional definition of what HR describes its organizational units. It's organizational constructs, so the context elements that we talked about. This is the culture, the subcultures of sub-teams. This is the process and policies and systems that are put in place, the governance, the way the decision-making is distributed, the team environment. It is also the workplace specifically, and if you think about workplace, you can now categorize it as physical, so that's the physical office space, or the Starbucks that you're working at. Or it could be your digital workplace, all the tools and systems and interfaces. And the two of them have to work integrated. And nowadays, with all the amount of data and technology available, you can no longer say, I'm going to keep those separately, because we live in that integrated world. It is also about the individuals and their relationship with the organization they go through. They start with somebody who may be a schooler who comes for a tour at your company and get so impressed with what they see there, and then they say, oh, when I grow up, I want to work there. Then they eventually decide to apply, they go through the candidate experience, they become an employee, they cross over into the company's boundaries, then they start performing, they coach, maybe they take on management roles. All of these are little experiences and big experiences that shape how they feel about the company. And it's different identities that they take on as they go through these steps or experiences. The employment journey, again, it doesn't constitute just the moment when they said yes to your offer letter until they quit. They may have a long-lasting relationship after they resign. Maybe they come back as a boomerang employee. Maybe they refer their friends or children to come work for you. All of that emotional connection still persist. And the idea is to enable both parties, the company to get the maximum value out of this relationship, as well as for the individual to get what they came for. And then we'll dive into some of those values in a few minutes. How do you design a good experience? Simple, traditional, human-centered design principles. You have to make it desirable. You have to make it something that people want. You have to make it simple and possible by using the technologies you have at your disposal, by using ways of changing or eliminating the complicatedness. And then you have to make it viable by having a different set of measurements that enable you to demonstrate the impact you're having. Make sense? Okay. So what do people come to work for? Why do you work? Throw a few things. You love what you do. You want to do it for fulfillment, for impact. Yeah. Financial, money. You have to pay the bills, yeah. You give up your time, you expect something in return. What else? Experience. You want to hang out with cool people who, uplift you and you learn from them and they keep you motivated when things get tough and celebrate with you when things are good. Yeah. Something new. You want to grow. We all, as human beings, are wired to keep going. We're like an automatic bike operator. You have to move otherwise the gravity will take you down. Yeah. Who told HR that the only reason employees come to work for is make money and earn benefits, right? And I think that creates a lot more restriction in terms of what we can offer to individuals when they come to work. If we could only open our mindset and say, not everybody comes for the same thing. Yes, efficiently, it's much easier for HR to administer these programs and deliver them and measure how much money was spent. But again, going back to that flawed assumption that the pie is limited, you're not considering the intangibles. And if you were to include investment in development and training into your value equation, as opposed to considering it as a cost, finance will say, no, that's a profit impact, as opposed to saying, no, this is a positive investment in your employee, who then will be able to perform better, deliver better customer results. As a result, the customer will spend more money with us and will result in profit. So it takes a bigger loop, but it's a very different way of looking at the value that gets created. Questions? Make sense? So the relationship, right, we talked a little bit, it goes through various stages, and we think about human experience as processes, and we design process end-to-end flows and use Visio to create those flow charts, as opposed to saying what is the experience in different relationship stages. As a prospect, what does it look like? Am I feeling good even if I was rejected or my job application was rejected? Do I feel good about the relationship? They kept me informed. They told me explicitly why they rejected me. And I'm really good about that. And I'm going to say about that on Glassdoor. What is that experience when you get your equipment and your systems? Like, how long does it take to boot up a computer? Did the system integrate, or do you have to remember 17 passwords? And by the time you're finally able to be productive, it's already lunchtime. Right? Thinking about little big and small moments, as well as the experiences in between, as you move through your relationship with the organization, is the next wave of possible transformation and unleashing that potential and the value from individuals. And we have a new era for measurements. Not everything that counts is counted, and vice versa. So this is tying back to the intangibles. And from an analytics perspective, we as analytics practitioners have the opportunity now to influence the thinking in a very different way. And just to give you a few examples, nowadays we measure the mostly efficiency of programs or HR processes, as opposed to saying, let's look at it horizontally, and let's say, where is the earliest intervention point along the journey of the individual to make the biggest impact? Let's take an example of turnover. People don't quit overnight, right? They quit in paper cuts. Where's the first occurring paper cut happening, and how can you create an intervention that will prevent the negative outcome from happening later on? And this brings a whole new set of measurements that we can consider, right? What is our interviewing experience? What is your experience as a person the morning after the layoff, the survival experience? Because that's when really the meaningful moments get formed and the experience gets created. So with that, we'll do a little activity. On your tables, there should be a stack of little cards. And if you don't have one, let me know. I have extra. So these are different activities that you saw on that values pyramid. So your action is to discuss, look through those and discuss and understand what those are. There are examples, there are descriptions, and then put them in two stacks. Real easy sorting exercise. One is what companies need to provide, and second one, companies shouldn't be made accountable to do and provide. We'll have 3-4 minutes. Yep.
Are you guys ready?
Yep.
All right. Well, if you looked at our table, you wouldn't notice that they're in piles. We had a difficult time probably putting them in piles. I think we put all the cards except for the economic reduced costs into one pile and then left that one side by side. And since we didn't pick one, I'll pick one. I think probably one of the biggest ones for me is the vision card. I just think companies kind of forget what the vision is, setting that vision, helping people kind of relate to it.
Yep.
Is kind of, for me, one of the biggest ones. Having a charter, having a vision that drives kind of those behaviors.
And helping people see how they personally can align to that as well.
Right, because then if, things change, life changes, and that vision no longer aligns with
Correct.
you personally, time to hop ship.
And therefore, having a bigger vision that it's a lot more about the impact will allow you to stay with the same vision for a longer time.
Yeah, sure. That's all we got.
Yeah. What ended up in your category of non-company specific ones?
Oh, just really the economic reduced costs. I don't know. That was a hard one. I think we didn't do it right either. I think if I were to kind of choose one, for me, I think the biggest one was kind of the pride and quality. I don't know. No, that's not right.
Yep.
I don't know. Someone else should probably answer this one.
All right. Who would like to? There was a lot of interesting debate over there. Is anyone willing to?
What are we willing to do?
To share what you've put in the category of what companies must provide?
What they must provide?
Yeah.
Sure.
And how you made the decision?
Okay, so we, under the category of stuff that companies must provide, reduce economic risk, so protecting workers against loss or unnecessary risk. It's common, but it's also, it benefits the organization as well,
Yeah.
To protect their employees and reduce risk. So we kind of thought it was necessary. Insurance is very common. Meeting the employment brand promise, I think is essential. So when you establish an employer brand, you create expectations for the employees externally, and you form kind of a psychological contract when they come into the organization, and then psychological contract breach really upsets employees.
And how many come and expect one thing and then they come through the threshold and it's a whole different.
It's very common. Yeah, exactly. We added hope to compulsory. Okay. To someone.
Future of the organization.
Oh, okay. So organizations should inspire workers about the future of the organization. In the sense they have to have faith in the organization's security, leadership, and things like that. Makes total sense. I agree. And then relationships, commitment. Commitment to the worker's own success. Company shows commitment to the growth and development of its workforce. Employee development's essential if you want to retain people and create a fulfilling work experience. So we considered it compulsory.
And it's really about investing in employability, not just for the duration while you're here and I can extract the most value from you or the most productivity from you, right?
Yeah, and developing employees, even after exit, it pays dividends in the sense they've got a positive perception, they'll refer people, et cetera.
Exactly. What ended up in a category not for companies?
Career marketability, social responsibility, task variety, which I completely disagree with. I think that should be essential. That's what we were debating about. And then wellness benefits.
Yeah. It shouldn't be the company provision. It should be the state, you think?
Wellness benefits? Mm-hmm. That's what the group decided on, yeah. Kind of like a nice to have.
And the global environment is also complicated because some of these are fundamentals in some parts of the world. Some of it is provided by the government and the social protection systems locally. So again, the global experience, it gets to a whole new level of complicatedness too. Who else would like to share any thoughts? Okay, go.
Okay, so we put a lot in what we're expected to be provided by the organization, including accessibility, stability, inclusion, affiliation, belonging, social responsibility, avoiding hassles, mastery, and expertise. I think we agreed that we would like ideally all of these things to be provided by the organization, but these are the ones who are like non-negotiable. Wouldn't work for a company that didn't provide these.
And I think it's complicated. It's really complicated because on one side, why shouldn't I get all of this from the organization? You know, our organization is here to help you get self-transcendence. Maybe, maybe not. But I think what's more important about organizations is to think, what is it that we want to be known for? And then embed those into everything and all the context and all the activities that we take. And how are we doing on time? We're tight? Okay. So there is another homework that you can take with you is to look at these stack of values and then pick one and think, how would you measure success if the company was to provide that? What would be the impact on measurement system? Any questions, any thoughts, any ideas? This is a relatively new work for me. Over the summer, I partnered with a few others, and we ran a research study on the workplace experience, and we looked at the dimensions and the impact and ways of measuring. So the report is going to come out in the next month or so. So stay tuned for that if you want to learn more. And looking forward to meeting you during breaks and learning more about what you're doing and how you are creating a better experience for everyone. Thank you.